In this video, I'm going to show you why weight loss is actually all in your head. These are the exact same tips that I give to all my students, and they've all gone to see some amazing results. So you know it works. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell to get notified every time I post a new video every week. It really helps support my channel. All right, let's dive in. Why is it so hard to lose weight for so many people? Why do we overeat? Because it's not like we don't know what the smart choice is. I think a lot of people know that eating an egg is healthier than eating a Snickers bar. The question is, why do we still go for the Snickers bar? And the problem actually doesn't lie in eating the Snickers bar itself. The bigger problem is this negative feedback loop that gets triggered because we feel bad about eating the Snickers bar. And that's because for a lot of people, they have a bad relationship with food. The interesting thing is when researchers did an MRI on the brain, anytime we feel guilt or shame, it actually activates the reward center in the brain. And in comes the desire to satisfy that reward craving. This is why the gambler is gonna double down when he's losing because he feels guilty. You feel bad when you had a drink when you said that you were gonna stay sober for a month and you end up drinking like a fish. When we feel bad about slipping up when it comes to food, we automatically switch to the seafood diet. We see food, we eat it. And when people feel bad about a food decision, we don't just go to a kind of unhealthy way of eating. No, we go all the way down the rabbit hole of unhealthy eating habits. Sound familiar? So how do we move away from that? How do we move away from that self-sabotaging behavior? Number one is understanding that your brain is actually driving you to do those things. So you have to remove that feeling of guilt and shame and rewire your thought process around food. Because a lot of things that we do is based on habit patterns. Half of what we do in a day is simply out of habit, meaning half of our food choices is automatic. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't want to have to think of new ways to brush your teeth or shower every day. We develop habits so we can focus on more important things to keep up with our high-strung lives. A lot of the overeating and self-destructive behaviors around food that we do is actually because we're always stressed out of our minds and we don't have any control over our thoughts. And that's where the problem starts. The brain is a very powerful thing. So you have to take back some of that control over your mind. How? It starts by practicing mindfulness techniques. Think about it. Like, when was the last time you took 10 minutes for yourself and you just close your eyes and focus on your breathing? During this practice, a thought will naturally come up. But instead of feeling this urge to do something, you're able to just let it go and go back to focusing on your breath. A lot of people go through most of their lives and not experience that level of mindfulness. Meditation allows us to be in the moment. I'd even argue that it could be your most powerful weight loss strategy. If you feel like you don't have time to do it, all the more reason why you need to create space in your schedule to practice it. Next, be very mindful of how you speak to yourself. We all have this inner dialogue that happens with ourselves. I got bullied when I was a kid. I don't think there's any room for that in our society these days. But sometimes most people are shaming themselves worse than any other person has ever done. A lot of people habitually put themselves down. It's an unbelievably toxic behavior. Because if you keep telling yourself that you're a failure, for example, eventually you're going to start believing it and it becomes your identity and it starts to become this running narrative in your life. Words are very powerful. If you have a friend or a sibling and they come up to you and they say that they drank too much last night, you wouldn't just tell them that they're a failure right away. When a baby is learning how to walk and they're not very good at it, you don't just start yelling at them and berate them because they're bad at it. Yet we do it to ourselves all the time. And when you beat yourself up constantly all day, again, the reward center of your brain lights up and you get a hit of serotonin every time you eat. You have to remember that every action we take has a positive intention. You're not dumb, you're really smart. When you eat, you're making yourself feel better because you feel bad about yourself. You're just doing it the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? And when you can look at yourself from that perspective, that is a complete game changer because you can start building from that. The lowest hanging fruit to get rid of all this guilt and shame that we feel around food is by simply removing all the triggers that starts this vicious cycle. Don't put yourself in a position where you have easy access to them to begin with. So it starts by taking care of your surroundings. Personally, I love sweets. It's a trigger for me. That's why I can't have cookies in the house because I turn into a full cookie monster. Instead, I have healthier alternatives like Greek yogurt. Once you change your environment, you start to behave differently. You're not always in this predicament where you have to make a choice whether you should have it or not, depending on whether you're having a good day or a bad day. And once you behave differently, something shifts in your head. Again, you're a very smart person and you start to think that, hey, maybe I can actually do this. As long as it's not available to me within arm's reach, I don't really need it. And that type of repeated behavior makes you believe in yourself just a little bit every day. Your inner dialogue starts to shift and you start to think, wow, maybe I can actually do this. Maybe I'm not such a failure like I've been telling myself all this time. You start to believe in yourself. You start to think that, hey, maybe you can actually lose the weight. You start to build some credibility within yourself. When you do that constantly over time, that shifts your identity. And that's where the magic happens. But you have to create space for it. Taking some time for yourself, practicing meditation, learning to quiet the brain, journaling, practicing gratitude. Until you start putting in that inner work, whatever pattern you've been following all this time is gonna persist. What you resist persists. The best way to go about this is start slow, baby steps. Celebrate the small wins. It's now been shown that gratitude, when they looked at brain scans, releases serotonins and endorphins. Those are your feel-good hormones. It's like a free antidepressant minus the side effects that you can prescribe to yourself every day. So learning how to practice daily gratitude and being proud of yourself about the small wins is so important. I mentioned earlier that my weakness is sweets. I don't drink personally, and I could go for the rest of my life not eating chips, but I have a sweet tooth. A couple of weeks ago, it was a treat day for me and I already had some food prepped. I already bought my treats. But when I was out for my daily walk, there was a guy selling churros. I've never had churros before and I've always wanted to try it. So I ended up having twice the amount of treats I was planning to have. The old me would have berated myself and say, you're such a failure, why can't you control yourself? Now, the new me is like, hey, you had cookies and churros last night. Things didn't exactly go according to plan, but now you know what churros taste like. So next time I see the churro guy, I'm good. Having that kind of mentality is what allows me to get back on the horse the next day because it's so counterintuitive to beat yourself up. So I want you to be grateful and learn how to appreciate every good food decision you make and just let go of the bad ones. I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, but you need to have selective amnesia. It's basically a superpower. The sooner you can forgive yourself and forget about it, the better. Because when we focus on the negative and just keep beating ourselves up, we can't go anywhere. We're stuck. In the history of feelings, nobody has ever benefited and grown from beating themselves up. We change best when we feel good, not when we feel bad. This is why exercise is such an important tool throughout this process, because it's so much more than just building muscle. And I've talked about the importance of building and maintaining muscle in my other videos because it's our metabolic currency. It's also about exercising the mind when you work out, because it's not easy, it's hard work, but it's also how you build credibility within yourself. We make promises to other people all the time. And for the most part, we follow through with that promise. We don't want to disappoint other people. But when it comes to making promises and keeping those promises with ourselves, we're the worst. We're so flaky. We break promises with ourselves all the time, which makes us not trust or love ourselves. We don't feel worthy. Think about it. Would you trust another person who keeps flaking out on you and keeps canceling on you? No, yet we do it to ourselves all the time. So establishing this integrity and building credibility with yourself is probably one of the most important things you can do. I am so obsessed with this because it's gonna make every single aspect of your life better. When you can look at yourself in a mirror and say, I'm someone who follows through with my own promises, something shifts in your head. But again, you have to build towards that. Baby steps. People say they want to start working out and that becomes so trivial. Like, what does that look like? What do you mean? How often are you going to go? What kind of workouts are you going to do? You have to give yourself small, achievable goals. If you haven't worked out since gym class in high school, don't even think about signing up for a gym membership right away. It's too much. It's not realistic. You need to slowly integrate it to your schedule. Heck, you can actually get pretty far just using your own body weight as your form of resistance. How about for week 1, just go for a 15-minute walk every day. Week 2, go for 2 15-minute walks. I always try to mention this, but try to do it after a meal because a 15-minute walk has been shown to reduce the blood sugar response by 40% and cut the insulin response by half. Talk about an amazing return on your time investment. Week 3, start calling up some of your friends and ask them what kind of workouts they do. Try different types of workouts until you find one that you enjoy. Going with a friend is also one of the best ways to get started going to the gym if you take that route because it automatically takes away the intimidation factor. When it comes to your diet, we're all creatures of habits. We tend to eat the same thing for the most part. I want you to come up with 3 types of vegetables you enjoy eating and pair it with your choice of animal protein. If you hate kale, for example, it doesn't matter that it's the healthiest food on the planet. You're not going to eat it. I'm not a big leafy greens guy, for example. I don't like salad, but I like cauliflower, mushroom, and sweet potatoes. So I throw it in the oven, I put a little bit of butter on it, and it becomes this enjoyable thing. Always prioritize getting enough protein and try to keep your carbs under 100 grams for the day. You'll naturally gravitate towards that number if you stop eating processed carbs and sugar. So if you can simplify things and make your meals easier, you're set. You don't have to think about it anymore. Also, I've never seen anyone achieve long-term sustainable results where they had to give up their favorite food. Whether it's wine or cookies, you just need to manage it. Don't have it in the house. What I tell all my students is schedule it once a week. Be intentional about it. Enjoy yourself. Is that process gonna be a little bit slower? Maybe, but the results are gonna be so much more permanent because you don't have to constantly say no to yourself and you don't have to feel guilty when you have it or when you slip up. So if you want to fix your weight problems, you need to fix your relationship with food. The next question then becomes, how are you actually supposed to eat if you want to lose weight? Because here's the thing, 80% of your body composition is determined by your diet. You can't just freestyle this part. Do you have a proven plan that you can follow? To help you with that, I want to give you a free copy of my Lean Body Blueprint. This is how I was finally able to get rid of all my unwanted body fat without depriving myself of my favorite foods or spending countless hours at the gym. It's a simple 4-step process specifically designed for busy professionals, and it's the exact same blueprint that I teach to all my students, and they've all gone to see some amazing results. If you want to be the next success story, then download your free copy of the Lean Body Blueprint right now. There's going to be a link somewhere at the top here or in the description box. Just click on it, type in your email, and I'll send it to you right away. Hey, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and share it with your friends. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post a new video every week, and feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions about this video. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Virtual high five.